What do you mean you don't like to decant bottles?
I don't like to decant bottles. I'd rather drink it from the bottle.
Okay.
He doesn't like even the glass. He wants to go right from the bottle.
Gentlemen, welcome to Wine and Wisdom. So the premise behind this show is I wanted to get some of my favorite people together to talk about some of my favorite things, which is wine and real estate. So one of the things I'm going to attempt to do is I want to try to pair the wine with the person and the personalities I'm sitting down with. So today I selected a couple of amazing wines from our friends at Memento Mori. Of course, you know Adam.
Love him, and I love the wine.
Adam's the best. Make some of the best wine in Napa, which in my opinion is some of the best wine on the planet. So I chose some wines that are big, bold wines because I'm sitting down with some big, bold figures. We're gonna drink two of his wines. One of them, the first one on your right, this is their 2016 flagship. So this is a blend from 4 different vineyards. It's 100% Cabernet, and it's taken from a couple of legendary vineyards like Dr. Crane and Las Piedras, and again, trying to pair it with the people I'm sitting down with a group of legends. So I wanted to try to really kind of bring this all together.
Nice.
The second one that we're going to try is their 2018. This is from their Vine Hill vineyard. So it's a single vineyard, also 100% Cabernet, and these are two of the best vintages that Napa's put out in the last 10 years. 2018, people would argue, is the greatest vintage of the decade. A little young, so we've had these open for about 3.5 going on 4 hours. So hopefully they'll have had a chance to mature and kind of think about themselves. And that's it. So that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna open some wine, we're gonna drink some wine, we're gonna talk some shit, talk some business, and let's do this.
I love it, man. I think it's a great thing to do, and to drink wine and talk business and talk wine with friends is always fun. And the more we drink, the more
More fun it'll be.
Totally. Yeah.
The more shit will happen.
Let's drink some wine and reveal some state secrets.
Well,
and
cheers.
see. Yeah, exactly.
Which one should we choose?
I think we start with the right one. Let's start with the flagship. So again, this is their 2016 vintage, spectacular vintage. This got 99 points. Should be an incredible wine.
Salud.
I love you guys. Thank you for coming. Salud. Wow.
That's
really good.
Oh, very good. Can I eat now?
Yes, you can eat that.
What topics do you think we should start with? Like, what's up top? I mean, like, we can attack this a lot of different ways,
Yeah.
right? But certainly, like, hot topics. I mean,
I'll tell you, front and center for me is this market, which, up until now, let's say the last year and a half, 2 years, I've said, what can you say? The pandemic's been really good to us, right? It's been an incredible market, great time to be an agent, great time to be a seasoned agent where you actually have a foothold, because I think it's a really tough market as a newer agent to try to gain that foothold.
yeah.
But what we're seeing right now honestly kind of terrifies me a little bit, right? I mean, between the 4 of us, we have a collective, 100+ years experience in this business. And I've only seen one real down market, which was the 2008, 9, 10 market. And obviously we know completely different circumstances in terms of what led to that. But the level of appreciation that we're seeing right now is so insane. I just don't understand how it could possibly be sustainable. Seeing properties that are selling for 20 and 25% more in a 6-month period of time. Properties in the desert that 2 years ago were selling for X are now selling for 100% more than that. I mean, I get that it is a supply and demand issue at its core, and as long as supply remains low and the demand remains high, I guess this could continue on for the foreseeable future. But I'm concerned watching how fast and furious the appreciation is right now. I just don't know how properties can go up by 20 and 25% every few months in a sustainable way. And I would love to get your guys' comments on that.
Well, let's talk about that for 1 second, because when you analyze and the properties that are going up 20 and 25% versus the properties that are going up 40 and 50% in some cases, it's completely different markets. You just brought up the desert, the desert compared to Los Angeles, the Los Angeles compared to Aspen.
Sure.
I mean, Aspen compared to Park City, New York, et cetera, right? Yep. Not everywhere is created equal, right?
Yep.
From that perspective. My personal perception of Los Angeles, and then we can cut that up into a Malibu, all kinds of different things. But for now, let's just start. But my personal perception of LA is the lack of inventory has created an increase of pricing. However, starting in the high end, right? Let's just start talking about the uber luxury, and then we can work our way down. But starting in the high end, I don't necessarily think, even though we've seen a lot more, $100 million plus sales in the last 2 years than we ever had before, there was also, those houses never even existed before.
Yeah.
Right? And I personally don't think that the Los Angeles market is appreciating at 20 to 25% every 6 months or every year. I personally, the way I perceive the Los Angeles market, I'd love to hear you guys talk about it, and again in the high end, is that it's been actually relatively flat for a long time, right? When we see the house that we sold, for $72 million, like, I am not 100% sure it's worth, $100 million today, right? I think Sarbonne,
okay,
right? I think that could be worth 80 to 85. Okay, and we sold it a long time ago, which means you're looking at an appreciation of 8% a year or 7% a year in a really great market, right? So I don't know. What do you guys think? Are you seeing a tremendous appreciation on pricing, really, or is it the amount of the lack of inventory and the amount of offers that create appreciation in certain homes, but not necessarily in others?
That's what I'm going to say.
Let me just clarify one thing. That is the ultra high end, which is such rarefied air that maybe those aren't appreciating as much, but the vast majority of the market.
I started at the top, so it was my conversation.
Brother, that's where you live. You live at the top.
Yes,
we had to bring you down from 30,000
feet. We started the conversation at the very, very top of the market.
Yeah, no, fair. Okay, so let's trickle down.
I think it's on a property by property basis. I think that the more I analyze this market, I'm trying to understand, is the more specific you are, the more you understand it. Like, you cannot even consider a whole area. Like, let's say you can do the Palisades anymore, because there are things that are sitting in the Palisades, right, and there are things that are flying immediately for crazy numbers. So I think, to me, what's happened right now is there's enough buyers out there. They're really, really well qualified. There's a lot of wealth, and they're out there and they're looking, and when they see something that is unique, that is a good location, obviously, that is a good product, they'll buy whatever. And when these individuals find those houses, they just buy it and they don't care, because who knows when the next great one is going to come. So
a different
which
way
is
of
why
saying
the algorithms don't work.
Exactly.
Right. That's why the iBuyer algorithms don't
right.
work. Right. Anybody, like, it's that simple, right? Like, it's and obviously the losses that we've seen reported by some of the big companies, like Zillow and Redfin, and some extraordinary losses have occurred because they're relying on a algorithm that is just not that simple. And that's why
it's
I
more
personally
nuanced.
believe that we will always exist, particularly. Look, without the house, I always talk about it as the house of pancakes, right? Like, if you go into a planned urban development and you've got 300 homes that are all the same, well, that iBuyer, like, no problem. Like,
sure.
There's a house A, B, and C, and this is how they sell. I mean, that's right. Computer can do that any day.
But I think there's a lot of different dynamics that are going on in the market now that have never really existed before.
Okay.
One is, I think people are really focusing on what is important to them for home. COVID has driven home the concept that the home has got to be much more than a place to come home to family, a place to sleep, a place to occasionally entertain. Now it's got to be serving so many different functions, along with being an office. Mm-hmm. It's got to be school rooms for multiple family members, perhaps. Yep. I think it's got to be a place where you're going to basically take in your entertainment media needs. So much more of a enhanced media room, theater. You're going to have more outdoor space. So I think there's been a more focus, like, home means more. We're going to pay more. It's much different.
It's a real sanctuary. People have realized that it's become a sanctuary, and not just a place
more
to
time there. And also,
correct.
We're not going to the office as much. So now you're there more. And now you start focusing on, I need more spaces. The open plan concept may be changing a bit.
And I think, Wall Street Journal, they just did a poll about, the people wanting to go back to the office, right? Like, and a lot of the people do not want to go back to the office. Like,
we're finding that. I'm sure you're finding it with your staff. We're finding that.
And that's what's also giving rise to appreciation in outer core areas, because now you don't need to be there.
I just think that we're gonna reach a level that the consumer is not going to be willing to pay, and the developer is going to have to charge certain pricing because of the supply chain, because of materials, and et cetera, et cetera. I think the developers are really in for a hard time with that.
Okay, so this is where I was sort of going with that question. So, look, I agree that COVID did a lot of things when it first hit. It sort of made everyone stop to reevaluate their lives and what's important and the space they need, and home became the sanctuary and so forth. It also, to your point, Billy, opened up the borders, right? All of a sudden, people didn't need to be within a certain proximity of their office. They could work remotely from anywhere. So all the sort of tertiary markets surrounding any major city exploded, right? So for LA, whether that's Malibu, Pasadena, Palm Springs, Laguna, Montecito, they all took off, right? So it's effective. Now, again, it'll be interesting to see. Obviously, I thought that the statement Apple came out with last week was
Everybody back.
which I thought sent a really interesting message to the world that it's time to get back to normal. It's time to get back to work. And I can tell you from our perspective, our group, we're eager to get everyone back in the office because the hardest thing to maintain with everyone working remotely is culture.
100%.
It's so hard to create a sense of culture where people feel like they're a part of something when they're all working remotely, because the only time they generally get on calls to talk about things is when they're problem solving. And that doesn't create camaraderie.
Nope.
Right? So that's one thing that I'm eager to get people back into the office for. But look, all the secondary markets, one of my favorite stats, because I thought it was most fascinating, was when we were in Aspen selling that property last year, and they said, on average in Aspen, we typically sell 2 houses a year north of $20 million. In the last 12 months, we've had 24 sales north of $20 million.
Yeah.
It was like, that number
Staggering.
is mind-boggling.
And
staggering.
now it's like 40.
And by the way, and you can
Like-
apply that, that's not exclusive to Aspen, excuse me, that's probably Jackson Hole you could throw into that. You could probably throw Park City into that. You could probably
Montecito.
Montecito, Napa, Sun Valley, right? So,
Palm Springs.
okay, so look, there's again a tremendous amount of wealth in the market, and I think that sort of answers the question as it relates to the upper end. But again, speaking back to the lower end, and I think just in all candor, I probably sell more in that price point. I sell a wider variety than you guys do. I think you guys sell more exclusively at the top, and we sell kind of the bottom to the top and everything in between.
100%.
It's like blood in the streets out there right now. It's
Yeah.
a feeding frenzy, and if the construction costs are going up, and builders are having to charge more, and interest rates are going up, and it's going to start.
They're going to start. The prices are going to start going down.
I just again.
It's that simple. And the developers are not going to make money. The sales are going to slow down. Volume's going to slow down until there's an adjustment of pricing, and then when there's an adjustment of pricing, you'll start seeing the volume occur again.
But I think, there's other dynamics that are factoring in that we're not really considering right now, which is one, international buyers have not been able to get into the country, and that's going to change.
But that's primarily higher end stuff.
Higher end.
That's going to be everything. I think
It's
that there's
primarily,
gonna be
look, if there's an international buyer that can afford 2 houses because they live in Japan or China
By
or London
definition.
or whatever,
Yeah, they're
and
high-end.
they have a second house, it's a high-end house. It might be a $3 million high-end house, but it's still a high-end house. He's talking about like the masses. He's talking about the working people that go to work every single day that are
Which again,
buying.
in LA, we're talking about $1.5 million to $2.5 million, which is crazy that that's the first time home buyer price point, but it is
But
for
I
LA.
think that you're going to see that even with international buyers, because with inflation, there's always a race to hedge your bets through owning assets. Real estate has always been a safe haven. By the way, I either need to get more of this.
I was going to say,
Or you guys either are
Sam, do we
talking
have?
too
Can
much,
we pour?
No, I'm
the
I'm
flagship?
actually watching how much
Or
I'm
I
drinking
drink
because
too
I'm scared that
fast.
there's very little wine.
Yeah.
You're
for Billy,
afraid of
please.
what you're gonna say, if you drink too much,
I'm with you.
not sure what-
All right. So again,
So this is my favorite. This is the one I drink. I have
you have this.
a couple of cases of this at my house.
Oh, you know this one.
Yeah, this
Okay.
is my favorite one.
So all right. So ordinarily, I
Or
would.
obviously the 18.
I would. I would
Little
never.
young, though.
I would never open something this young ordinarily, because I like to, for Napa wines, I like to open them within like 8 to 10 years of their, the vintage date. But again, Adam was kind enough to
is
lend us
such a
these
good wine,
bottles,
guys.
and this got some, again, stellar reviews. It's been open about 4 hours now. This is from Single Vineyard on Vine Hill, and should be
This one
spectacular.
got like a 99 or 100
Got
points.
some huge ratings as well. Yeah.
Smooth.
That's great.
So good.
Yeah.
My daughter remember she said to you when she met Adam, oh, I don't know if you remember this. We visit when we all came over to the Wallace Ridge house.
Yeah.
And we had that open house kind of just at the end of COVID. It was kind of one of the first open houses.
Yeah.
We had Adam. You guys had Adam
Bring some wine.
bring
Yeah.
some wine out, and Alexia met him for the first time. And he said, hi, I'm Adam Crown, owner of Memento Mori. And Alexia said to him, she goes, oh my God, I lived off of you during COVID.
Hey everybody, super excited for you to watch this episode of Wine and Wisdom. These legends sitting beside me need no introduction. We are going to have a very spirited conversation and drink some amazing wine. Can't wait for you to watch.